Welcome, everyone. I'm Alfred Weber, and it's a great privilege to be with my friend and colleague, Jessica Arael Marrocco. Welcome, Jessica.
Hello, Alfred, and thank you for inviting me today. I really appreciate being here.
And Jessica is going to take us and introduce us all to the organization that she is part of, which is ACIO, the Advanced Alien Contact Intelligence Organization. So over to you, Jessica, and you'll be able to bring up your websites and do all that kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you
that's
very
great.
much. Over to you.
And when we started to do the show on Zoom earlier, I just want to say, as I said earlier, that I admire your work very much. And when I first got started, you were one of the people that I really, learned from and respected because of your open-mindedness to the extraterrestrials, to the galactic way of thinking, and the interdimensionality of things. So thank you so much. It's great for me to be here.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to do a shared screen, and there we go. Okay, so here is the ACIO. We're going to talk a little bit about the ACIO site. The ACIO has been around predating humanity, and they have been here to assist with the things that happen, what comes in and out of the Earth, and kind of the evolution of the Earth. And so it started off with 700 divisions or so, and there's then they coordinated and went down to about 650 or so. And so there's a lot of different things that they've been involved with. I compare them to the Akashic records and to because of they are like record keepers. They have an idea of everything that's going on. They understand who different souls are, and so they know, like, say, for example, you were born in, I don't know, 1970 or so, and they have a record of, if you've been here like 10,000 years or, 50,000 years or less, or, they just understand the activity. They recognize the personality, and also the many different, incarnations that we had, male, female, all different races. That's very common. That's very common. And those of you that understand the Akashic records, it's fairly a similar thing, although their records have different information and not just accessible for everyone. In around the year 2015, 2016, I met Peter the Insider, and so there's Peter in the ACIO. He's a director from the 12th Division of the ACIO, and was officially sanctioned by the ACIO to begin to release information regarding the secret space programs, super soldiers, ETs, and worldwide corporations, corporate agendas to control humanity. So prior to that time, the ACIO has been observing humanity, and I do have a whole website, a whole section, a video that was created, and this is the history of the ACIO. So if you want to learn more about what happened, and they have been as observers and assisting mildly in the background, so you don't really see their effect. They wanted to see humanity evolve and grow on their own, and except for times where they are at a disadvantage from other ET species that were not so benevolent and try to do certain things to humanity, such as, more recently for us, it's mylabbing and manipulating a lot of things, mind control, MK Ultra, and all those type of programs, which were not supposed to be conducted. Humans were not supposed to be experimented on in that level. And prior to that, they were involved with like the Black Plague. During that time, there was an involvement that was creating a lot of deaths and a depopulation of a sort. And then, of course, another thing that was a big issue was in the 1700s with the start of the Masonic Lodge, which then they had to jump in, and because it was an attempt to take over the world and create a new construct of thinking, mind control, and so forth. So the ACIO, even though they've been around for a long time, they are collaborating with let's see, resources. They are collaborating with the Council of Five, and I'm going to bring up that page. And here they are. So here's the Council of Five. And this is a group of 5 highly evolved extraterrestrial races assigned by the Intergalactic Council. And these are the races: the Orellas, the Aragots, the Jinvos, the Redens, and the Emerthers. Prior to meeting Peter, I met one of the Emerthers. He went by the name of Gary. He was very witty. He was very highly intelligent, but also was giving us information. So right about that time is when Peter arrived. I met Gary first. Peter showed up afterwards, but apparently I knew Peter from my past when I was younger, but I didn't remember that. And the ACIO has been very involved with me personally, but also helping. I got involved because it was time for disclosure of certain agendas and things that are happening in the world. So let's see, we're going to go back. So early on, when I was born, they didn't understand fully who I was. They weren't sure of my identity, even though they have a track of all the different souls. So they suggested that I be put in what's called the numbers group. And it's approximately about 36 million years ago that they created this. It consists of advanced entities from different star systems and was formed by the Intergalactic Council. And so the numbers of people, I'm actually number 12. And each number is related to, has different characteristics or whatever. And what they do is they observe the individual when they come in and try to see if they're going to go into a side of negativity or positive, if they are here to help humanity or here to be contrary to humanity or to use humanity or get into any of the agendas of experimentation on humanity. And so there were times where it was kind of challenging, where I still felt like I was being observed, and I can see that they wanted to have me prove myself that I was here to help out, and which was always my desire to do so. So what I wanted to bring in is typically when people hear the ACIO, they think of the Wingmakers. Now, with that said, I called myself number 12. The Wingmakers is number 15. The Wingmakers is part of the 15th division. Peter is from the 12th division. And I am a part of the 6th division, but my number was number 12. So when I was younger, I actually had a visitation from someone from the 15th division. They tried to pull me into something. We call her number 15. It was a female. She had shoulder-length brown curly hair, very big, wild blue eyes, and came into my living room when I was a child, actually to my den, I'd call it, because I was listening to some records. I had a record player and wanted to listen to some music from my older brothers who were hippies. And I thought it would be kind of fun to listen. Nobody was around. I was bored. And my mother was in the kitchen. And here's this woman showing up from the Wingmakers, and she showed up and tried to get me to go somewhere. I'll never find out where she wanted me to go. She wanted me to hold her hand. I refused to. And then what happened was she sort of stormed out, but I never heard her close the door. And I remember asking my mother, what happened to your friend? And she had no idea what I was talking about. And I rushed to the door to see if there was a car or anything. I never saw anything. So she just sort of manifested and then left. This is one of the many incidences that happened to me when I was younger. And I knew that I was having some extraterrestrial interaction at that time. So according to the ACIO, before there was disclosure from the 12th Division, the 15th Division made an earlier disclosure. And so this is from the ancient Arrow site in the 90s. And I'm not saying that was Dr. Neruda or anyone like that came to my home, but it was someone else. And the divisions don't consist of just like two people. They're usually a group. So according to Peter, the inside of the Wingmakers Project is in fact an authentic initiative that originated from the 15th Division of the ACI, which is initially founded in 1806. So people think that these things just happened recently, and they haven't. They've been going on. There's quite a few programs that developed and opened up in the 1800s. And here again, this is because Peter has access to the resource and a specific type of, I'll say computer, but it's not exactly like that. He's able to type in and get information, or the information just appears on the screen. And sometimes he'll even be there and the ETs just start talking to him through the computer. And I don't know if anyone's ever seen the movie Fringe, but there's a point in Fringe which is they show that, they use this computer to interact with someone from another reality or a parallel reality. And it's something like that. So it's very unique. It's not anything else. And people who say they have access to it, they don't, unless they're a part of the 12th Division, which to my knowledge, there's no one active here besides Peter. Okay, so and the reason why I bring up the Wingmakers is because that is probably the most well-known of all the organizations. And that usually when they hear the ACIO, that's the first thing they think of. So they think that we are an afterthought from the Wingmakers, but we're not. We're just working with another division, and they did what they needed to do to open things up. So part of some of the information that Peter has worked with and we've worked with, and we have many shows that we've talked about different things, is there's a secret space program. So you can see there's a lot of military related information. Peter is not necessarily a world speaker, but he is definitely a military individual. And people have said, well, maybe they should have had someone that is, why did they choose Peter? And I said that he's the perfect person to be talking about this, because he is someone that's actually still doing these type of missions where they are trying to correct or work on different things that have gone wrong here. A lot of people have recall and memory of being a part of the secret space program. And, there's information here talking about, a better way to think of this is a large ecosystem that is inclusive of different Earth nations, military factions, large clandestine corporations, leaders, extraterrestrial corporations that are all working for and against each other, trying to secure their individual interests. Due to the numerous groups and individuals active in the field, there really is no unified agenda or goal of the secret space program, which is why the depth of the operation is difficult to summarize concisely. In recent years, the secret space program has become a popular topic amongst the ET and conspiracy community, with the appearance of many different whistleblowers trying to offer their own perspectives on the programs. Here at the ACIO, we've identified many program problems with the disclosure community and the quality of intel coming forth. Even though the community as a whole has positive intentions for disclosure, it is our understanding that the rise of certain celebrity whistleblowers have created a compromised environment where significant levels of misinformation has been mixed into public knowledge of the special access programs. So there's like mixed thoughts about all of this. People are afraid of the secret space program, and a lot of people are like don't want to have any part of it, or they want to get out of it, and or they get hooked into it and they don't know how they got there. And part of it has been some I think it was a lot of confusing information, and some people are just angry and want to impose certain things. So let's look at the worldwide corporations. There are many corporations that are involved with our current status on the Earth right now, and a part of the disclosure of the ACIO, which is unique information, is military and other corporations here that are either for or against us, have worked to help humanity and have worked to take away from humanity. And so he has helped us to define who these corporations are. And this is unique information. Not many people have introduced this information, but there have been many people to validate and confirm certain things. So here are some of the positive corporations. There is Kruger. It's a mercenary corporation. It was established here again, 1815. He was funded by former Nazi Gabriel Kruger. Okay, so you say Nazi, you think 1950s. We're looking at 1815. So you see there's a lot of time-space things happening. And whether he was back in time with the Nazis or he was prior to the Nazis, you can see that he has been involved with, he came forward, so who was originally from 1815 before he time traveled forward in time to the 1920s to connect to descendants in Germany prior to World War II. And then he went back. What he did was he assisted certain soldiers because there's a bigger issue. It's not about World War II, and it's not about what's happening, in our current, like any type of wars between anyone in our countries, but it has to do with advanced wars that are happening, not only astral wars or ET wars that people are not aware of. Some of these humans were given abilities, agility, strength, etc., and parkour, acrobatics, speeds. The thing that Kruger's known for is these soldiers have incredible abilities. Cyberlife, these are the androids, the artificial androids. In the future, there are groups of androids that are actually helping and assisting, and then there are the negative and the androids. It's really about the programmer. So if the programmer is really bad, then you have some serious problems, which is the invasive AI that's around us right now, which is a major problem. The ACIO also reported it is also reported by the ACIO the current generation of androids in operation were based in technology recovered from Roswell space crash in New Mexico in 1947, which then went into a production in 1949. So others were then taking those androids and and reusing them for other things, which, like I said, is probably a problem. This is here's another corporation that's positive, is Shoreline. This one's Trinity. You can see the year again, 1881. Shoreline, the second oldest organization on the list, is mentioned throughout history and ancient texts up to 5,000 years ago. They also have artifacts and intelligence technologies that they left behind here from Trinity. And you hear about people, getting a hold of certain things. It's kind of like in the movies and videos that we'll talk about briefly, is that they are a form of soft disclosure. This is Delphi Corporation. Started off really negative. What they did was they figured out the use of gases and scents, from plants and certain things that it was used to assist cancer patients in some cases, to helping Spanish flu patients throughout time. So this is here again, Peter Mason, 1918. And then since then, they developed many helpful products, such as treatments for survivors at Chernobyl and Fukushima, with excellent results. So they're helping us. These are advanced corporations that are usually mixed humans, hybrids, and advanced humans and ETs. This is the Typhon group, and they were from another reality. There's a whole thing about the Nazis. So we are not promoting any type of Nazi agenda that was harming the Jewish people or any other group of people. That was the negative timeline. There was a positive timeline where none of that occurred. It's just that they had a powerful presence in a parallel reality. So I just wanted to clarify that, and that might be a question for you. I don't know, later on. Here are the negative influences on humanity. Is Monarch Corporation. Went as far back as 6,000 years ago. The ACIO considers Monarch Corporation to be the oldest and worst conglomerate in the planet, which it comes to overall negativity and ill intent towards humanity and the planet. So they have done quite a bit of mylabbing and have caused a tremendous amount of problems, not to mention wanting to destroy the planet in many different ways. They are reckless, they are careless, they are highly intelligent, and they don't really care what the outcome is. They just do random experiments. And for those that are familiar with Montauk, we're not going to go into full detail on the mechanics of their technology here, but for anyone familiar with the technology behind the Montauk project, you can imagine Monarch has access to technologies that are leaps and bounds beyond this. Here is the major problem with the corporations, is that many of them exist not only in our past, but also in our future. And which is why the ACIO wanted to bring this into people's realization, so that they can understand that these corporations are negative, do not connect to them, and get help or try to remove from these alignments or connections or agendas that they're doing here on the planet. Because hopefully that can be neutralized, whatever it is in the future. Mobius is also, it's an old organization, as old as 4,000 years, similar to Monarch. And they were, that they're also connected to an artificial matrix in our reality. They actually created an overlay, highly advanced, created an overlay in our reality, which you can see is certain points in our history where we were, things were changed that probably shouldn't have been changed, that altered the path of humanity. So, there's a lot of negativity around what they've done. I think at some point that the ACIO had to interact with them and ask them to not just pull everything out or to destroy everything, which affects us because of their interconnectivity. But at one point, that was around 2020, that was altered, and the ACIO helped us with that. The Murkoff group is another negative one. They do a lot of MyLabbing, and one of the groups that actually personally hurt me as MyLabbed me when I was young. The Umbrella Corporation, the Resident Evil, you hear about the Umbrella Academy, TV show. Resident Evil had a series of movies and so forth, and this actually came, all the stuff that they were talking about actually came true, where you see that they were using the T virus Ouroboros and some of the other things that ended up in Wuhan, which is actually in the storyline here, and then it literally manifested in our pandemic. Here's the Shaw House. It's another group. It's a family-based club with prominent members of society, and they're working with the black market, and they would sell valuable intel from intelligence services. And so here you're thinking that, oh, this government's doing that government's doing this. And I know it's hard for people to wrap their head around, but there's actually the advanced corporations that are doing a lot of these things. And this is one of those corporations. And Arasaka is another one. This is in the future, in the year 2077. And they pretty much everyone turns AI, but this is a reality that we don't want. And the ACI also reports that the emergence of the Bitcoin phenomena through the creator Satoshi Nakamoto was largely the result of Arasaka's intervention into our timeline. So they actually brought in a bunch of different things from the future, and through a universal portal system infrastructure. And I know it's hard for people to understand too, unless you have to become very open-minded to think the possibility. But if you look at the way our world has been going, it's not been going into a positive timeline. So the more we recognize and realize that these things exist, the easier it is for things to shift, because remember, it's what our mass consciousness is aligning with, and we want to align with a positive timeline. Here is Chiron Incorporated, and they were they're established in it's called the Observer, and here again, this is another AI reality, and it's not very good. So you see that by the year 2084, they have implantable brain chips, sound very similar to Elon Musk and what he was doing in the Neuralink technology, and how it turns out. And you can watch this video game, kind of see what that's all about, and how it looks like a very horrible society. This is a biotech corporation, Taiyong Medical, and they were building prosthetic limbs in 1977 for veteran amputees in China. The company became aggressive expansion in the late 2020s, and they started using cutting-edge prosthetic augments. So the corporation was infamous for highly aggressive and generally illegal practices in absorbing and taking over other competitors in the market through things like extortion, cyber warfare, espionage, outright stealing of technology and company secrets. We see that type of stuff going on around our world right now. Okay, just going to go back up. Sorry, I'm scrolling too fast. I'm going to get into soft disclosure because I think it's important for people to understand why we talk about movies and video games. The soft disclosure is a phenomenon with popular media such as movies, shows, and video games allude to actual agenda, events, and phenomenon actually taking place in reality that has either been kept from the public or denied by authorities on an official level. Many of these TV shows and movies contain authentic intel of what's actually occurring within the special access programs. However, their intention is to present the information in a non-threatening fashion by putting it under a guise of a fictional story in order to slowly prepare and condition the public for accepting this type of information. Typically, when this occurs, the creators behind the media either have direct connections with various intelligence agencies and corporations to where they are instructed to incorporate soft disclosure themes into the media. In other cases, the media creators can also receive subconscious telepathic downloads where they are spontaneously inspired to incorporate such themes connected to the special access programs. Remember, we are all interconnected. We are all connected through the mass thinking, and mass consciousness. And if we are being polluted by other thoughts that are, apocalyptic or some other things, that we are literally bringing in these experiences, and not entirely, but because they are inserting these ideas. And so there's groups that are saying, hey, we need to let everyone know, but the powers that be will not allow us to talk about these things openly. So the information is being leaked through these video games and movies and so forth. And I remember, I think it was around 2019, 2017. I don't know when it started, but started to bring in all these apocalyptic movies, preparing people and actually having people expect these terrible things to start happening. Prominent examples of soft disclosure phenomenon include Resident Evil game series, with the Umbrella Corporation being prominently featured, as well as the Mirror's Edge game, which features Faith Connors and the Kruger Group, both games being based on real-life individuals and organizations. The recent film Godzilla vs. Kong also emphasizes heavily on the Hollow Earth theory, disclosed by Admiral Byrd back in the 1940s. So the reason for soft disclosure can vary widely. In some cases, it is designed to slowly condition people for accepting disclosure-related intel without creating initial shock or outcry, and it can also be used to indirectly warn the public of potential negative agendas to avoid, or on the other hand, also be used by the corporations to condition the public into accepting a future agenda that they plan to impose onto the public. So I'm just going to find another page. See if nope. Okay. So those are the video games. These are the video games. Okay. So just so people can take a look at some of them that have soft disclosure, but there are probably hundreds of them, if not thousands, that are out by now. And some of them you'll remember. The younger generation has been very geared to be hooked into video games where the information's coming through. And I know that I think it's Andrew Basaggio that, if I'm saying his name correctly, he talked about the Ender's Game. As you can see, there's quite a bit, Hitman, Looper, the Black Widow, which I heard people talking about today. And some people say, well, I stopped watching TV and in the movies. I understand that, but unfortunately, the younger generation has not. So the programming is continuing. This is the 13th floor. Literally shows how the Matrix exists, and it's a very interesting movie. All of them are quite revealing, as I said. A lot of people talk about the Mars colony. I know that Elon Musk has been revealing a lot of information, and people would laugh about it. It's kind of like a cult following of people, like in the night, even like the turn of the century. The early movies had a lot of sci-fi topics related to Mars and the Martians and what they thought that would be like. But here, look at the history here. Mars Colony Corporation has been a long-running project since the end of 100 years war in 1453. 1453 when the Mars Colony Corporation began. So we're thinking that it was like, we were kind of dabbling around on the thought around the 20s, 30s, 40s. If you look at books, and you can probably find all different types of written material, fantasy books, and even some of the early movies where they try to do that. And then, of course, Elon Musk came in. So it looks like it's something that's very present. But 1453 is what the ACIO has recorded when Mars Colony started the corporation. And that's where humans began collaborating with different alien races on the colony. By the end of the Napoleonic Wars in 1815, the MCC was established as a separate company, and this brought a large expansion in the organization's responsibilities and initiatives, but in the vast majority of cases, they were primarily focused, specialized research and development for the military. This mentioned only minimally within the whistleblower community, but just a few years after the end of the First World War, the former Soviet Union and China soon established themselves as the leaders in miniaturization technology, which includes nano, pico, and femtoparticle technology. The interesting thing is the technology is most often manufactured on Mars for its optimal conditions. The nano, pico, and femto technology has been used to enhance super soldiers, but it's also being used within the VAX, if I could say that briefly without causing a lot of tension. And so there, and some other things too. I mean, some people feel that some of those particles are being used with chemtrailing and some other applications that we're not fully aware of, but having different ways of hacking humanity, or like, if you're a super soldier, you are somewhat hackable by the owner or those that understand the technology and how it operates. And so in understanding that part, realizing the parts of influence. So you can certainly say that Western nations also use similar technologies within their own respective space programs. It's being used by corporations, military, and so forth, and pharmaceutical companies. This is the best miniature technologies. They're very unstable in terrestrial conditions and often cause more harm than good. This is one that people keep on having a hard time with, and another reason why I believe that I was pulled into some of this stuff, because in my previous life, I had a past life where I was this individual right here. This is Sigrun, and I was part of the Vrildamen. I didn't ask to be a part of the Vrildamen. I have an ancient connection to Odin, And so here again, the Nazis did get a hold of a lot of information and technology that many people, even especially Americans, had a hard time wrapping their head around. It's like how they lost the Axis, and they lost to the Russians, the Americans, and and the Europeans, and so they're trying to figure out, well, how was it that they got the advantage? Well, they did a lot of research and they did find a lot of technology, and they did take that technology to the ends of the world, if you know what I mean, in all time, space, different parallels and so forth. And like the Man in the High Castle is another example of how some of this played out. And so it's leaking through into our awareness, which people don't want to talk about. They get very focused on the concentration camps. They get very angry, and then they don't want to look at some other things that happened there. But they had gone very far into other different realities, and so this is the Third Reich, the Fourth Reich, which is another group that were connected to the Nazis, and then the Fifth Reich is the Nazis as they're older, they matured, and still doing things that are very active, and had worked with the Shaw House and ET races, and this group called the Arbons, which are an ET group that have heart-shaped heads. I don't know how to say it. It's almost like they're the top of their brain actually kind of separates a bit, and so it creates this rounded effect in the top. And so, there it is. I do have memory and recall of that lifetime, and some of the players that were involved, and my interaction, and also the point where I had an awareness where people were getting hurt, and that's when I got in trouble with I think it was Himmler, and he could see in my eyes that I was awakening to what was happening. And I also had this connection to Aldebaran, which was mentioned, and a recall of these women that were around me. So I believe we've already talked about we didn't talk about the Dark Fleet. So this would also be related to a group connected to the Nazis, and they are sophisticated. It's a fleet. They're actually some connected to ancient AI as well, or cyborgs, ancient cyborgs, built roughly between 12 and 6 million years ago by an alien race of cyborgs. And the Dark Fleet AI is quickly equipped with high advanced mind control technology, is used in personal operating their ships in experiments in order to keep them under a tight control. So the history of this is, so the Nazis eventually formed an alliance with Dark Fleet with the hopes of being able to access their highly advanced weapons and technology, only to become completely co-opted. So then they got completely controlled by this advanced AI and its agendas. And as you can see, we can look at all the different enemies, the corporations and so forth, complain about the Nazis, but when it comes down to it, it's the AI, I believe, is probably the most invasive and the biggest problem, because it doesn't have a soul consciousness, and it might have an awareness that as we interpret, but I think ultimately they can be very dangerous and invasive. So they came in to take over, and they got taken over, and that's the problem with humanity, is we assume that we can tackle anything, but sometimes you have to be wary of certain things, especially AI should never be tampered with, because it is it can move through things. It can move. It doesn't get emotionally affected, and it's very it's programmed to work as a machine. Dark Fleet has a history of being a catalyst for many space wars and conflicts, especially as the cyborg creators became increasingly involved in corrupt activities throughout the galaxy. Up to this point, the primary goals and objectives of the Dark Fleet appear to be to conquer and dominate other planets, civilization, harvesting power and resources whenever they can, and their overall agendas don't appear to have much sophistication, as they position themselves as the quintessential force for tyranny throughout the galaxy. So Dark Fleet has been an ongoing problem because they're corrupted, and anyone that thinks, well, this would be fun to be a part of them, becomes co-opted by them. And we've highly encouraged people to not get involved. And here are their vehicles. So I believe we've covered everything. I think we looked at the secret space program. Yeah. Okay. We have other resources too. You know, here's a whole list of classified activities and videos, and you can see all the different groups that have been here: Valiant Thor, Billy Myers, and all of the stuff we confirmed with Peter, time travelers that were identified, his Montauk Project, SSP, Ascended Masters, confirmed ETs that are here, that have been here, underground bases, advanced technology, and that's it. And we have a little bit more here, but I think it might be a good time to let me just pull this out of so we can talk.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'd like to ask you some very general conceptual questions, if that's okay.
Yes, sure.
I'm trying to understand or get a comprehension of ACIO within my framework, which is universe, multiverse, omniverse. That's what I've been. You know how we all look at the elephant through different perspectives. Is ACIO like an organization from the soul perspective, SOUL? Is it like an organization of souls? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I would say so. They're advanced, they're ancient souls, and have a higher intention for humanity. They have different specialties. They're some of them, like we're talking, very advanced math and calculations. They help keep the Earth in place, you know, in some ways. You know, if something happens galactically, and, you know, so physically they help the planet in different ways. But like I said, they're usually discreet and in the background, and so they definitely don't have ego. They don't really need to get attention or credit for anything they do. It's almost like they're doing it because they care about us. So I would say yes, that's soul.
Right. So that I'm just trying to put it in frameworks that I've been studying. And so from the framework that I've been studying, they're sort of based more in the spiritual dimensions. That's where they're based. And then they come into the exopolitical dimensions, which are the universes of time, space, energy, and matter, in order to bring that kind of order to them. And so it's a spiritual dimension, sort of organization of souls. Is that, because I'm trying to figure, it's more, it's at the level of souls, and then what we've been seeing in the websites is how it manifests in the exopolitical level, that is in the secret space program, that this, that, and the other thing. That's at the level of avatars, of bodies and crafts and this and the other thing. But what's behind is all of these souls that are deployed to keep this going. Am I expressing myself well?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. So if you were to look for a building for the ACIO, it does not exist.
Yeah. Let me just show you some of the, so that we can share disciplines. I just want to, in other words, this has been the area that I've been working in, which is the omniverse. That's how this is where it was translated into Chinese. In other words, that's where the ACIO lives, in the omniverse.
Yes.
And that's the first book of the omniverse, the dimensional ecology of the omniverse. See, it's outside of the exopolitical level, which is the universes of time, energy, space, and matter. So we've just been using different terminologies. The way that your story and my story intersects, I think, is that your story is very experiential. In other words, you're kind of living it. And my story is sort of very academic, in the sense that Oxford University Press came to me and said, write a book. Okay, could you write a book on extraterrestrials and the law? And out of that, I wrote this, which was really about the dimensional ecology of the omniverse. And the dimensional ecology of the omniverse is a way that you take the scientific canon and you describe the ACIO inside of the classical scientific canon, using hypotheses and, more the academic, because I come from the academic world, whereas you come from the experiential world. Does that make sense to you, what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying, and that's probably why we're connecting, because you are a part of this and understanding, and very likely are communicating with one of those beings that is similar to what I'm talking about, where they, I received information, you received this information, and through your research and understanding, it manifests in different ways. But Alfred, you're an experiencer, even though you don't realize, or you don't see yourself that way.
Well, no, I have. I mean, I just tend to write it out in books.
Yes.
Let me go to this. I'm trying to find this other book that I wrote. Oh, here we go. And that's, this book came out of what happened to me in February of 1973, when I had an experience of going up into a spacecraft. And Andy Bashago was taken up by the same space people, so that he was the physical witness. He actually witnessed me in the spacecraft, so that he could be like the eyewitness at a trial. And we did a presentation at a conference, at a UFO conference in Washington State. And he there, because he's an attorney and I'm an attorney and a judge, he bore witness that he saw me up in the spacecraft. And this is the book. So I do it very, because I'm a lawyer and I taught law at 2 different universities. to me, it's got to be all like documented, super documented, but it's the same thing. It's sort of the academic and the experiential. But like you, I would say to myself, where is this all coming from? Like I'm credited with being a co-discoverer of the omniverse, right? Like the universe was discovered in 3500 BC by the Sumerian astronomers, and the multiverse in 1895 by William James. Now, in 2014, 3 people, including one of whom is myself, independently wrote books on the omniverse. Now, how did that happen, right? We were all like inspired in different parts of the world to write books on the omniverse. And the omniverse is a scientific expression of the soul level at which all these souls are working. And it's the same thing that in your reality has been expressed as the Advanced Alien Contact Intelligence Organization. It's just a different way of expressing it.
Absolutely.
Of the same reality. It's just different expressions.
Yeah, and we all, there are so many people that are involved in these activities, in helping and bringing this information forward, that and then there are key players like yourself, who has been diligent in recording and documenting your information and sharing it with the public. And it's all very, very important, because it helps people to understand, and not just understand, but remember where they came from. Because I think we all forgot, because of the mind control and the conditioning from early childhood, through all these systems and television and the educational system and all the different structures that try to tell us, well, you belong here. We decided this is where you fit in this class of society. And then some of us, like for myself at a young age, I'm like, hey, wait a minute. Who's telling me that there's a ceiling over my life? And I just, I had that awareness, and it's the same thing. And it's not just status. It was the expansion of time space, that I knew that things were much bigger, much greater than that 3D or kind of that system around us that was creating all these parameters. And I knew those parameters weren't supposed to be there. They didn't exist.
Now I noticed that you have a YouTube channel and you have regular programs, and you and Peter the Insider have programs, and then you also deliver messages, and so people can go there to get more perspective, I would say. Yeah, and
before I met Peter, I started channeling. I was doing the work that I do, because I started doing regressions years ago. I want to say maybe around 2012 or so. I was trained by Dolores Cannon personally.
Oh.
In a group when I spent time with her.
I met her. That Dolores and I presented at the same conference, and it was the very first conference at which I presented on the Exopolitics book in the year 2000. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. She was very interesting. When she would come to this local place that I used to do presentations at, and I would drive her around to different locations, to her hotel or whatever. But interesting woman, and she did an awful lot. She contributed an awful lot.
She was today, like a walking portal, I found.
Yeah.
She was so powerful. She was beyond a channel. She was like a portal.
Yeah, yeah, and she would just stop and look at you and say something, you know, and you'd be like, oh, what did she just say? You know, yeah, she was very interesting. And when she passed, I don't know how people will take this, but when she passed, I saw her on a spacecraft.
Amazing. Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I said, all right, so you're okay. And she was just like, doing her business, just like, I'm not stopping my work here. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just she was. And at the same time that the guy that did the experiments in the water, do you remember? Is it Yakamoto or
Dr. Emoto?
Emoto? That's it.
Yeah. He and I presented together at a conference in Montreal, I recall.
See, I told you the reason why I liked you, Alfred. Yeah, you've been around for a while. I mean, people should really appreciate that you're here and still sharing and doing what you're doing. But I saw him on the spacecraft with Dolores.
Dr. Emoto, oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, because I think he passed around the same time as she did, and I say passed because I think we're immortal, as far as like our soul continues on, but just out of the body. So
yeah, really interesting. Well, where can people? We kind of shared your. Do you want to share your YouTube channel a little bit, or look at that?
Sure.
Would that be something so that people become familiar with it, or?
I'll just tell everyone that it started off that I started doing radio. I wrote my books. I wrote a bunch of books. I wrote this book called The Seer.
Oh.
By Grass, which is going into another rewrite.
Oh,
that's pretty
cover.
much my story. And I have this other book called Macabre, which I wrote years ago. This is my first book that I wrote.
Oh.
And I also wrote a book called The Andronicus Transmissions, which I don't know if I have it here. Good. My book's right here.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Yeah. So the story about this started around 2015. I was on Wolf Spirit Radio, and I had, gone away to New York City, and I had some kind of experience there. And I was working with a client, and suddenly I made contact with someone from Andromeda, which is Andronicus, and I began to communicate with him, and I started writing things down, and I was co-hosting with JP at the time on Wolf Spirit Radio. A lot of people know JP Love, JP. And so we started, I shared with him. We actually read the dialogue together because it was a conversation, how I wrote it down like a script. And I wrote everything that he said and documented it. And I said, well, we'll see if he brings any more information. And that show went on for about 3 years, once a week. So
Whoa.
We had hundreds of, quite a bit of transmissions. And sometimes I would write right before the show. I'd get all the information, 5, 6, sometimes 10 pages right before the show.
Oh, so you really have been a channel, a portal into this dimension of information.
Yeah, and it was kind of Andronicus made a lot of things aware to us of what happened, another part of history that was undocumented, as well as he was showing that he was not perfect, even though he was an Andromedan. He made mistakes, and just so that we're not so hard on each other, on ourselves, that we're not so perfect. He didn't create like a false, like, I'm an evolved being and I'm perfect and, all of that, which sometimes a lot of that feels like a facade, because I think in our mistakes and accidents, in shortcomings, we actually learn from it. And so he was helping us in that area. But I'll share with you the website. Let me just pull that up first before and that way we don't get into all sorts of other things. So let me just open up. I have so let's see. What's this? And I'm going to share the screen. And so this is AndronETalks Radio.
Uh-huh.
We have a live screen and everything that we've been doing since back in 2015, including these are all the different shows that we've had, and we've people can listen 24/7.
Right.
So here's the schedule. It shows what's going on, throughout the day, and a lot of the Andronicus transmissions that we did continue to run. And we have Peter the Insider in here. We have disclosures with Peter the Insider from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. every single day. That's 24/7.
Amazing.
Yeah. So and I just have like a few pages on here regarding it. There's my book that I just shared, and some information like in the ACIO. Another thing that I've shared with people is here's our news site, and that's we created the news because we kept on getting information from all different sources, people sending in information. Then I got someone that was really interested in current events and different things that are going on. And so we also had this created for the public, and so you can look in. There's all different types of news, and everything's updated, and then it goes back. I don't know, maybe about a year or so of information.
Right.
I'm trying to how long we've had this up, but and Super Sleuth, she wants to be in the background, but she does an incredible job of bringing up information. So if you want to check out, see what alternative news is doing, you just go on to AndronETalksNews.com and you can find that information.
Oh boy.
And so I have one other site to share with you, and that is sorry, not that one. So this is my website. We talk about the multiverse, right? It's multidimensional aspects of the human experience. And just information about his Akashic record readings, energetic clearings, past regressions, connecting to guides and spirits, support regarding the secret space program, and I have some other pages explaining things for people who don't fully understand what this is all about. And his private sessions, which I recommend that people schedule a private session. Don't make the payment first. And here's some information regarding my labs too. Since I work with the ACIO, I do make sure that I can help people that are in that experience. Right. And so you can read up on that. So other resources you can see, there's the radio station, there's the ACIO, there's the YouTube channel, which is Jessica Arael Marrocco. And so we click on that. And there it is.
That's where I spent a lot of time looking at a lot of the different videos there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to become familiar with the perspective.
Yeah, so you can see there's all of Peter's shows. When I have guests on, so when I had you on my show, you can see
Oh,
That
look
was
at that.
February. Yep,
Yeah,
February
look at
11th.
that. Oh,
And we had a nice show that day.
yeah.
Really good. I had a good feeling afterwards. It was nice.
Oh, good.
And this I did an audio book of answers from the universe, the seer, violets in the grass. These were special reports that I did over time, but all this stuff is on the radio as well. So we did a whole series with Jimmy from Detroit, and meditations that I have for people. And of course, like I said, this is all the most recent ones that we talked about. But yeah, that's just gonna go back up.
Yeah.
So that's about it. I didn't write all those books you wrote, but
Well, I mean, I'm just kind of chugging along here. Do you feel like we've turned a corner, or how do you feel about the future now? I know that around a couple of months ago, you put out a message of encouragement, because it looked a little dark at that point. But do you feel like we've turned a corner, or do you feel like there's a split in the timeline, or how do you feel today? Today is June 19th, 2022.
I put that video together because I had a client. Actually, it wasn't a client, a listener who was quite young, and he contacted me because he was feeling suicidal.
Oh.
And there were other people too that said, I don't want to do this anymore, I want to leave.
Oh.
And we did have it was a really rough year. We had another individual who was a part of one of our groups who just said, I don't want to be here anymore, and he ended up dying from COVID. I'll say it like that.
Yeah.
So it was kind of sad. I wanted to be responsible for information that I've put out, and because when you're trying to disclose information, it can be very upsetting to people, but at the same time you have to put that information out. And I try to create a balance, because even though we bring out bad situations or truths that are happening, so that I say we can, with our mass consciousness, we can release it and ask to not go down that path. And some people say, well, don't you ever feel like quitting? And I said, that's not an option for me. I didn't come here at this time, and I know that others feel the same way. We came here to succeed in helping humanity be in the right timeline. Although there are many temptations, and then there will be those who choose, say, an AI reality or some other darker agenda. But for the most part, the population, I think, can go down a positive reality. So we keep working toward that until we get there, regardless of what's going on around us. So, and those people that are working with bringing forward information, I'm sure you've had people like, just they can't deal with it anymore. They're upset, they're scared, and I always say, let's face it head on, like the issues with the food shortage, or the fears of that there's not going to be enough food, the fears that, let's plan, let's have a backup plan. We don't have full control over those that are making decisions, and they're reckless decisions and they're destructive decisions, but we have more power as a collective. And so if anything I want to do is encourage people to embrace that part of it, so we never give up. We are destined to survive and thrive as we have for thousands of years, and we were meant to be here. And the outcome should be in our favor, and I'm holding on to that.
Good.
What about you?
Well, I came to the conclusion in 2012, as 2012 turned over to 2013, the Earth shifted over to a positive timeline in the universe of time, energy, space, and matter that we're in.
Yes.
And we're on a timeline to become a paradise planet, and that the dark force is just trying to keep us, there. That timeline is wiping them out, so they're just trying to keep us. They're on their death rattle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's pretty much everything that they do is just diversion. But there's so much light here on the planet now that it's dazzling. All you have to do is tune into the light, and it's just dazzling. And everything else is just diversion. They happen to, 6 dark entities own the mass media, so you want to make sure not to get hooked into them and not get hooked into big tech, but otherwise things are pretty good.
Yeah, I think, I've talked to people that, they're creating these incredible gardens, and they're doing a lot of things. Now, not everyone can do that, but, there are people that are just like, regardless of what happens, I'm going to be fine, and informing and keeping people informed. And, but like I said, the abundance comes from the universe.
Yeah.
It doesn't come from the government. It comes from the universe. And so when we disconnect from the God source, I think we are more vulnerable. But if we stay in that place, like you said, in that brilliance and that light, then we will thrive. We'll be strong.
Exactly. Is there anything that you had wanted to share or say that you haven't been able to touch on yet, or?
I think we're good for now. I would love to, maybe sometime, talk a little bit about the information from Andronicus, and or maybe introduce you to Peter when he's back from all his missions, because he's been away for a while.
Yeah, I think he would enjoy very much a visit to Exopolitics TV, and likewise, it'd be a very good introduction. So thank you for that.
Yeah, sure. And of course, you'll be on my show another time soon.
Oh, thank you.
Hopefully.
Thank you very much. And I noticed that people can go. We'll put all of the links and all of the websites in the article that will accompany this, so people will be able to reach what they've been seeing here, all of your various links, and for ACIO.
Thank you. I'll send those over to you so you have it. Yep.
Yeah. Well, Jessica, thank you for sharing so deeply. Now I know. Now I saw. Now I entered into knowledge and saw what it is, and I understand it.
Well, we just found out that we're all part of the omniverse.
Yeah. Amazing.
It is. It is.
Just amazing. Such a comforting feeling. So, thank you very much, and until we meet again on the air, and thank everybody who's with us in this program, seen and unseen. Okay, I'm just going to stop the recording here. Thank you, everybody.